What's up YouTube, it's Tucky Tuck coming at you with another Apex Legends video today. In today's video we're going to be talking through how Apex plays differently from other battle royales like Warzone or Fortnite and things like that. Just for some context, I'm no expert at Apex. As you can see on the screen now, I have 126 hours played on Apex Legends, so that's not a lot at all compared to most people who have been playing the game for a long time. I've only played ranked this season and I'm up to plat 2 already, and I'm still progressively climbing. Hopefully I'll be at diamond before the split's over. I might try to get masters by the time season 14 over. It just depends on how progressively I go and how much harder it gets as I climb. But anyways, I am decent at the game and I do have a decent amount of time played on the game. But what this video is for the people who are really comfortable with other battle royale games like I am. I was really good at Warzone, played in a lot of tournaments, had a 34 kill game was my PR. I played Fortnite when it first came out, but really Warzone is what I used to play a lot. But I've switched over to Apex and it is a lot different. And if you're watching this video and you've played other BRs, you'll know that Apex Legends is a lot different from other games. So what I've done is, in my 126 hours worth of playing, I've compiled a list of 6 tips. These 6 tips are tips that make Apex Legends play differently, how you need to play Apex Legends differently from other BRs like Warzone and Fortnite and things like that. And they're distinct and specific for Apex, and then once you recognize these things and start implementing all this stuff into your gameplay, you'll begin to see more success in Apex compared to other BR games. So with all that being said, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let's hop into these tips. So tip number 1, first and foremost, obviously the most obvious difference between Apex and Warzone is the fact that there are legends and there are abilities in Apex versus other BRs and Warzone. And the reality here is you need to learn all of the legends abilities in Apex. A lot of people will say just learn your main, and I'm not saying you shouldn't learn your main. If you don't have a main, I have another video on my channel of how you can find your main. But you definitely need to learn your main for sure. Learn the abilities, learn the ins and outs. But over time, you need to make an effort to learn every single legend's abilities so that you know how to engage those legends in a fight. You need to know what to expect so that you're not caught off guard. You need to be able to predict what they're going to do, play around their abilities. For example, if you're playing Bangalore and you know the other team has a Bloodhound, you're obviously not going to start throwing your smokes around because that's going to put your team at a disadvantage. That's a really obvious comparison, but that kind of sums up the whole point. And the reality of it is you need to learn legends abilities in order to find success against those legends. Also tied in with this tip is when you're learning legend abilities, I would encourage you in this way to play the legend that you're comfortable with, not the legend that everyone says is meta. As you get into the high ranks, legends are meta for a reason because they're the better legends, but at lower ranks or when you're just starting to learn the games, or especially in pubs, you don't want to be playing meta legends that you're uncomfortable with. You want to be playing the legends that you are comfortable with. You know how to use their abilities, you know how to get the most out of their abilities, because if the potential with a Seer for an ability is 100 and the potential for a Mirage with the ability is 50, and you're able to get 90% of the Mirage's ability and 20% of the Seer's ability, you're using the Mirage to a 45 effectiveness out of 50 and a Seer's to a 20 out of 100 on effective scale. So you want to use the legends you're comfortable with up to a certain point. Once you get towards masters, you'll be at a disadvantage, but in the lower ranks and especially in pubs, use the legends that you're comfortable with, and this only comes when you learn legends and learn their abilities. Number 2 with Apex Legends is rotations in this game are infinitely more important than in other games. Every time there's a new circle, you need to be looking at the circle, determining how you need to rotate, when you need to rotate, where you want to set up, because you can't just 8 people in this game. If you set yourself up in a gunfight to have an unfavorable fight, you will lose. And having a favorable fight starts with positioning. There's been so many times where I just wanted to go kill people and I've ended up dying because I get gate kept or because I get third partied when I'm not going to the ideal place in the circle. So you definitely want to make sure you emphasize rotations above everything in Apex. or this is going to go right in with those rotations. Don't force fights that are unfavorable. In Warzone, I would always just run at anybody I saw and fight them and outplay them because I was just simply better than most of the people I was facing. But in Apex, you don't want to force fights that are unfavorable. You can be better than everybody on the enemy team by a mile, but because of legend abilities, because of how long it takes to kill, if you force a fight that's unfavorable, you are likely to lose that fight. You have to be much smarter with your fights in Apex than you are in any other VR game, because being smart, being wise matters more than in any other VR game. So you got to make sure you're not forcing fights that are unfavorable. And on the other hand, if you have a favorable fight, do everything you can to make a team play into you without overextending. Fourth tip I have for you guys on how to play Apex differently from Warzone is to always play with your team. There's lots of times in other BRs where you can just kind of go do your own thing, get away with it, but because of how long it takes to kill, how often you're going to have to be reloading and switching weapons and shielding, you're going to need to be playing with your team at all times. And I would even go so far as to say that making the team play is most of the time better than making the right play. For example, if your team makes a push that isn't a good push and you're better off where you are, but they won't listen to you, you are better off going with them on that push rather than staying behind and letting them die. Because if you stay behind, then you may survive a little bit longer, but you're going to end up getting killed in the long run. So always, 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 always play with your team. Tip number 4. Tip number 5, this is the biggest one that I've had to learn. I think the biggest that many of you will have to learn is that healing is way slower in Apex. It takes much more time to heal. Your health doesn't auto regen. It's a much longer process to get heals off. So you need to learn when you should be full resetting, when you should be trying to regain all your health and all your shield, and learn when to fight off of a small reset or a short reset where you're just getting off one bad or maybe a couple of sales. But you really do need to get used to learning to fight without having full health, without having full shield, because it's going to happen often because of how long it takes to fight. So you just got to be more aware, get aware. If you've done more damage, then typically you're going to want to engage without full resetting because you're going to have an advantage obviously in that situation. But healing is way slower, so learn when you need to prioritize it. All right guys, my final tip for this video on how Apex is different than Warzone. One of the biggest ways is the time to kill is way longer in Apex Legends. This is going to mean lots of things as far as your engagements goes. First, that means you need to get used to weapon swapping. So shooting a whole mag into somebody, switching weapons, and then shooting that mag into somebody. You need to get used to soft resets of hiding behind a corner, reloading your guns, and then popping back into the fight. And you need to get used to ducking and dodging and weaving while you're doing reloads, doing weapon swaps, making yourself a harder target to hit as you're doing these swap animations. Those are things that you need to get better at. But then also, I would say something that I've really had to learn is realizing and recognizing that the time to kill is longer for your opponents too. So this may seem weird at first when I say this, but in other games you die like instantly in lots of different ways. So the thing with this game is, what I found when I first started playing is oftentimes I would start pushing teams or playing against people, and I would be like, oh crap, I'm super weak, I need to get back and heal, when I still have, one shield left, or he's just broken my shield and I still have a ton of health left. You have to realize that time to kill is a long time for them as well. So you're not going to die as fast as you die in other games, so you're able to engage fights longer, help your teammates longer, challenge stuff when you may feel like you shouldn't because you have more health than it may seem like in other games. So time to kill is much longer, and that's going to mean a lot for your fights. And if you can get used to how long the time to kill is, both offensively and defensively, you're going to be setting yourself up to win much more engagements. So anyways, other than all that, guys, those are the 6 tips I have for you. It wasn't a super long video, I didn't want it to be, but this is how Apex is different than Warzone and other BRs, but again, for me specifically Warzone. So if you enjoyed, leave a thumbs up. If you learned something new, let me know down in the comments below what you learned. Be sure to subscribe to the channel too if you want to see more content. I will be bringing some more in the future, maybe a Road to Masters or Road to Diamond series or something like that. But hope you guys enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.